Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith. And listen, I'm just a girl stuck in my apartment looking for someone to talk to. So I found some people. My guest today is Vanessa Price. She's the author of Big Macs and Burgundy Wine Pairings for the Real World. We're talking the best wine for this holiday season, which just happens to be, oh, yeah, during a pandemic. So, whether you're looking for wines to give as presents this season or what to wash down those Christmas sprinkle cookies or Hanukkah Latkes, we've got you covered. But before Vanessa and I get started, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Let's Talk About It YouTube channel. Don't want you missing any new episodes, and this way you'll get alerts as new interviews come out. So, Vanessa and I will wait. Go ahead, like and subscribe. Did you do it? Great. Vanessa, thanks so much for being here. Let's talk about it.
Yay, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Big Macs and Burgundy, two of my favorite things to indulge in. Talk to me about what inspired this new book.
So what inspired the book was actually, it was a spinoff of a column that I had in New York Magazine's Grub Street for 2 years. So it was a column that started as a one-off and just performed really well with their, with the audience at New York Magazine. And they eventually said, hey, do you want to turn this into a weekly thing? And so that's what we did. And then before I knew it, I actually had publishers knocking on my door asking, would you be interested in turning this into a book? One of them being Abrams, who eventually became my publisher. So was really fortunate to sort of have something that was just a silly idea, sort of not a silly idea, but meant to be something just sort of humorous and one-off, turn into the snowball that it has.
And it's so unfortunately fortuitous right now, as the comfort food is all we've been indulging in these last 8 months. Is that wild with the pandemic? And maybe some liquid indulgences too with those wines. But now combining the two, sometimes people don't always think of, as the title suggests, a Big Mac and a Burgundy. Although I really like a red wine with some red meat, or pizza with wine, which you're preaching to the choir here. I can't call that its own food group. Pizza wine is the best thing ever. Other foods maybe less thought of to go with wine, as pigs in a blanket, chicken fingers, things that people typically may go grab that beer or a liquor with. What are the wines that maybe we should try instead?
Well, I think, so the whole point of the book is sort of reevaluating how we think about food and wine pairings. So instead of thinking, well, that it's only for fancy food, right? Because ultimately food and wine are meant to go together. It doesn't matter if it's a fancy food or an everyday food. But beyond that, instead of looking at something as like a whole being, right? Like a chicken finger or a Big Mac, looking at it in terms of the elements of the food itself. So is it fried? Does it have a fruity sauce on it? Does it have a lot of citrus to it, right? And so when we start thinking about food in terms of its elements, it's easy to figure out what wines you want to put with that. For example, fried chicken, right? Fried chicken has a lot of grease. It's got that crispy skin. Something like a champagne would be really nice with that. You've got the acidity, you've got the effervescence. It sort of works as a counterbalance to all of that grease that's in your mouth. And just like you have the crunchy bread from the fried chicken, you've got yeastiness in the champagne. So there's these elements that are working in tandem, and then there's these elements that are working in a complementary opposition. So it just depends.
Absolutely. What's been your favorite new discovery in terms of pairing those comfort foods and a wine?
Well, I think the one that sort of broke the internet, if you will, was Cheetos and Sancerre. That was the one that everyone just, there was literally like articles that were like, can you believe this song paired Cheetos with wine? And honestly, when I got that assignment from New York Mag, I initially thought, I don't know what I'm going to put with this. And so I thought it was just going to be like yeah, okay, those will go well together, fine. And then my girlfriend and I she came over and we tested it out together. It ended up being such a good pairing that we polished the bag, and it wasn't one of those like little deli bags. It was like the full grocery store size bag. And I don't normally eat Cheetos like that. So it was awesome to see how good it was. What's that?
It was all for the research.
It was all for the research, 100%.
Absolutely. Now, as we move into the holidays, I mean, we are there. We have hit the holiday season. Thanksgiving is behind us, and now Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, New Year, all these upcoming holidays, we're going to be looking for wines to pair with however we're celebrating it. But we're celebrating the holidays this year in just a crazy new way because of the pandemic. How can we maybe elevate these pairings of, the occasion, the holiday, and the wine after coming out of months of just either imbibing whatever was in the cabinet or grabbing whatever was still in stock on the shelf, and making things a little bit more festive with what wines we choose?
I would say step out of the box. And we all love Chardonnay and Cabernet and Pinot and Malbec, but trying to find wines that maybe you haven't heard of before, or maybe you didn't necessarily think were any good, giving them a chance. Like, for example, one of my go-to wines from Thanksgiving to New Year's is aged tawny port. I love, 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 like with all of the, the pumpkin pies and the pecan pies and the gingerbread and just all of the yummy sweets that we have around this time of year. A little nip of tawny port, especially an aged one, is so good. And it's one of those categories that, I say port to people and they go, oh, isn't that not good? It's like, what? Step out of the box a little bit, because there's a reason that these wines have existed as long as they have. So my recommendation would be to step out of the box.
And we have the time to do it, and
we do.
likely we may be you might not be having to cater to as many people. We're not supposed to gather. Family may not be coming together, at least in person. So be adventurous, right? Mm-hmm. Try that port this time. You don't have to worry about what the aunts and uncles are going to try. What other want, or the traditional choices that might be the most popular around the table? What other recommendations can we bring to our holiday meals?
I would say, in terms of like a nice red, if you want to step out of the box with the red wine, try a Cabernet Franc. That's a wine that often gets forgotten. We always think about Cabernet Sauvignon, which is very full-bodied, and then we think about Pinot Noir, which is much lighter in body. Cabernet Franc is one of those grapes that sort of sits in the middle, and it's actually one of the parent grapes of Cabernet Sauvignon, which is something a lot of people don't know. So it's a grape that's been around for forever, and it has this really amazing profile of lead pencil and dried tobacco leaves and I really like sort of like electric red fruit. And it's got a tingly spine to it because there's so much pretty acidity, and it sort of can run the gamut with all of the different holiday foods. It's a food friendly wine, we would say. So traditionally they're mostly coming from the Loire Valley in France. You can also, a good place to find them from is Long Island in New York. So there's a couple different places that you could experience a really good Cab Franc.
So I'm getting ready this Friday night to make potato latkes for Hanukkah. I don't normally think about the wine pairings, but if I wanted to find a new fun wine to pair with some fried potatoes and really nothing else, because aside from some applesauce and sour cream, I mean, depending on who I'm talking to, that already may sound like a strange food grouping. But what wines would you recommend for Hanukkah, or wines for latkes specifically? I have other holiday food choices, but Hanukkah is coming up this Friday, so we'll start there.
Okay, so actually potato latkes is in the book, and with that one I paired a Golan Heights sparkling Blanc de Blanc.
Well, I mean, if that's not on point, I don't know what is.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people want to discount. That's another category of wine that often gets discounted. When people say kosher wine, the first gut reaction is to think Manischewitz or something like that, right? Something sweet, something inexpensive, something that maybe our grandparents enjoyed, but isn't really to our liking. But there's so many wineries in Israel that are producing phenomenal wines that are also kosher. But it's still what you would think of in terms of, a red or a white dry wine from somewhere else in the world. And the Golan Heights specifically, they're making a lot of really nice sparkling wine. So, and just like with the fried chicken, how sparkling wine works, same thing with fried potatoes, a sparkling wine would go nicely.
Is that a rule you would tend to with, a fried greasy food, potatoes, fried chicken, French fries, go for a sparkling wine rather than a red?
I would put bubbles with anything. But yes, yeah, fried food specifically is a really easy go-to for bubbles.
What about those traditional sprinkle Christmas cookies that everyone loves? Maybe some are better than others, but we're all going to be just probably stuffing a bunch of those in our mouth in the next coming weeks. What can we pair with Christmas sprinkle cookies?
You're talking about like the simple sugar cookies, right?
Yeah, but then are like all decked out in those crazy sprinkle decorate. I mean, it's like next level. You got your sugar cookies, and then we cover them completely with sprinkles.
Sure. So something like that. So a rule that a lot of people are often surprised by is that whenever you have a sweet food, you actually need a wine that is as sweet as the food, if not sweeter.
I totally was thinking the opposite.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Well, so what happens is when you put sugar in your mouth, your palate's ability to perceive more sugar is diminished. So that's why like you develop a tolerance for sugar over time. So if you have a wine, for example, that's dry or like let's say like a tangy Sauvignon Blanc, and you pair it with something that's sweet, what will happen is the wine will just start to taste sour. It won't actually taste very pleasant because the acidity feels too far from the sugar. So for a sugar cookie or a sprinkled Christmas sugar cookie, I would probably go something like a Moscato d'Asti. So something that has a little bit of sugar, just enough to compete with the cookie, but not something that's like overly syrupy sweet. And just the same way that the cookies, whether you like the soft version or the hard version, they both have that sort of fluff to them. There's a slight fizz to Moscato d'Astis. So they're going to have that same sort of like fluffy sort of light feel to them. And it's always just nice to have a little nip of something like that with your dessert.
You think that would also go well with gingerbread? I'm thinking of the other traditional cookies. Gingerbread could have more of a bite though, right?
Yeah, gingerbread's different because you have the ginger element. It's a little bit of a sharper treat. I would go something that's another one actually that's in the book. So for the book, I paired that one with a wine that's not the easiest to say, but it's Zabibo di Panteria, which basically I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's a wine that is Zabibo is the grape, which is actually Moscato, but coming specifically from the island of Panteria, which is an island halfway between Sicily and Africa, basically. And it's super, super hot. And the grape profile that you get there is going to be very ripe and very full and very jammy. And then they age the wines for a long time and oxidize them. They expose them to oxygen. So they get this very sort of like nutty, sort of just delicious candied fruit sort of flavor to them, but they still have this slight like zing of acidity. So with that sharpness of the gingerbread and then all of the flavors of the wine, they really sort of amalgamate well together.
Absolutely. The holidays are also, unfortunately, just like always a stressful time. Now, add in the pandemic, and we've taken that up X amount of levels.
Wine helps.
Wine helps. Not suggesting we should deal with our problems through different substances.
No, but it definitely lowers the blood pressure.
We need something to unwind with every now and again, right? Now we have the holidays. We're all still working from home. And maybe at the end of the day, when you move from your kitchen table to your living room, as maybe that's as far as you get in your daily travels, what can we unwind with in the holiday season to, I don't know, help us get through it, get to 2021, right?
Oh, what would I unwind with? A wine that was once really, really popular in America, so popular that actually today there's still a winery that names each of the bottlings after cities from pre-Revolutionary War, like Charleston and Philadelphia and New York. And today, most Americans have never heard of is called Madeira. Madeira it's actually the name of an island off the coast of Portugal, and they produce a style of fortified wine. Some can be very like bone, racy, steely, dry, and others can be very, very sweet. So you kind of have to figure out which style you want. But they're fortified, meaning that they've had a little bit of alcohol added to them. So they're going to be more alcohol than your typical wine, but not as much alcohol as like a spirit would have. and they're a perfect, you pour 2 ounces, it's not the same pour as you would for like a dry table wine. And you just sort of sit, if you have a fireplace, sitting by the fireplace and sort of sipping on that neatly, or, if it's just curled up on the couch watching your favorite, show that's keeping us company right now. But that's something that I definitely love to sort of unwind, especially when I'm in a treat yourself of the holidays sort of mode.
As we all should be. And I love Portuguese wines.
Normally.
So
they don't get enough play.
Oh my gosh, I love them. So this is, not too far from that, or, a small jump if you already love those wines.
Yes. Yeah. This would definitely be not too big of a scary jump if you don't know them.
Absolutely. And as you said, the other thing getting us through right now is all the binging that we can do with either our Netflix, or we just caught up, or we're starting, the Queen's Gambit or The Undoing, or like for me, we are mourning that we have to wait another year for the Great British Baking Show to come back.
Everybody loves that show.
I love it so much. It helps me get through. Yep. So now that that's over with, but we still have so many wonderful offerings to stream and watch. What's your favorite wines for we'll call it just the general Netflix and chilling, because it's all we can really do right now anyway.
Well, I think it sort of depends on my mood and on the show.
Yeah.
There's actually, for fun reference, there's a couple of pages in the book that I actually pair different, not just on Netflix, but on different streaming networks, thematically matching the show with different wines. So, if you want to be a bit playful, there's probably a good, a little over a dozen there. But in general, when I'm sitting down to watch a show, I think it's just so driven by my mood. Am I in a cozy mood and I want like a big red Zinfandel, something that's going to make me feel warm inside? Or, if I got the heat blasting so much and so many layers on me that I need like a cool, crisp sort of like Aurino just to sort of cool me down.
Yeah.
But certainly, again, I'm always trying to try something new. Whenever I go by the wine shop, I'm the label that I don't know, the wine that I don't know, because it doesn't matter how long you're in wine, how long you study, how deep down the rabbit hole you go. Someone is going to bring you a wine and say, "Hey, do you know this wine?" And you're going to go, "Nope, never heard of it before, but I'll try it." So that's, I think ultimately what I like to do is try new things.
It sometimes feels during this pandemic that like our choices are limited with what we can get our hands on. But have there been new wines that you've discovered during this time? New wines that are or labels that are being produced or have debuted that you would recommend to people if you see it in your wine shop or wherever you can get your local indulgences, to give a shot?
Yeah. So I actually, let's see. So, I've actually discovered quite a few during the pandemic. I've been fortunate in that, yay, internet, right? We can get lots of things online. But I actually discovered a garage winery from Napa Valley called The Vice, which I initially thought, just based on the name, it might be a bit gimmicky, but the wines turned out to be absolutely phenomenal. And the gentleman that's making them, actually, since the California wildfires have really been sort of devastating California wine country this year, he's actually taking a significant percentage of his profits and donating it to wineries that were completely devastated during the fires. So not only are the wines delicious and you're supporting a small business, you're also supporting a larger wine community as a whole. So I would say check out the Vice wines.
Absolutely. And that's a great suggestion for gift giving with wines this holiday season. But what should people be maybe aware of or look for when they're, adding on doing that during the pandemic? Has anything changed with just protocols to be careful of, especially if you want these items to get there on time for holiday gifts?
I think it depends on, where you're ordering from, but certainly, I think most sites are pretty good about saying, order by this date to receive by this date, because, we've sort of gotten the lay of the land on that. Definitely, if you're ordering from another state, give yourself more time. If you're ordering in state, it's probably going to come a little bit faster than if it's coming out of state. But yeah, I mean, also, whatever your local wine shop. The thing is, even it doesn't just have to be New York, San Francisco, Miami. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and I can tell you that when I go home, there's so many cool wine shops with so many cool unexpected wines on the shelves, and supporting local business right now I think is especially important. And another thing to consider is wine shops I think are doing pretty well in the pandemic, but restaurants are
Yes,
really
right. Those wine
struggling.
shops staying open.
Yeah, restaurants are struggling. Like it's pretty scary, honestly, in terms of the number of people whose jobs are currently on the line or they've already lost and they don't know when they're going to be getting another one. But one of the provisions that a lot of states has made is that restaurants can now sell as retail entities. So consider going to your favorite restaurant, right? That place that you still want to see open around the corner when this is all over, and you can go back and have your, martini sitting at the bar, whatever it is. Find out if they're selling retail, because a lot of states have made that an option. And they're competing. They're not doing wine list prices. They're competing with retail shop prices. And a lot of times restaurants have access to wines that maybe retail stores don't in terms of the allocation process. So you can get some really nice stuff for gift giving and help a restaurant that might be in need.
Absolutely. Even with just a takeout order, you can grab that wine to enjoy with the food right from the
Yeah,
store.
even that as well, for sure.
Absolutely. So, last question, Vanessa. As we start the week off, what's the wine that might help us get to Friday this Monday morning? And we're looking already, right? And we're looking to indulge in something as we are well into the holiday season, starting off the week. What's something to try?
I'm going to be having all this week actually. I'm going to be trying Long Island wines. So if you've never tried wine from Long Island in New York City, in New York State, they're worth giving a go. There's so many great wines being made out there, and I think that New York wine really gets overlooked. We always think about California or Oregon, but New York is producing some really phenomenal wines. Everything from super bone dry, steely, racy Rieslings to the beautiful Cab Francs that I mentioned before. Merlot does really well out on Long Island. So just sort of giving New York wine a chance.
Absolutely. Well, Vanessa, thank you so much for joining me today. The
Oh,
book
it's my
is
pleasure.
Big Macs and Burgundy. Don't forget to add that to your holiday list. I mean, give
Yes.
people a little education as you and also present them with that holiday wine gift. So it's something to read up on as we go grab the chicken wings later too. Pandemic and there are no rules, so why not, right?
Why not?
Absolutely. Vanessa, thank you so much again for being here. This has been Let's
Thank
Talk
you for
About.
having me.
We'll talk to you next time.